I would go to any lengths to undo what happened. I would go to any lengths to undo what happened.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, it was about 12 hours ago on Saturday. It might be already Sunday, your time, wherever you are. Alec Baldwin put up a almost 5-minute post on his Instagram. I'll put a link to that in the description, where he rebuts, he counters the allegation that he has not been complying. He rejects this idea that he hasn't been cooperating with the Rust shooting investigation. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So, Alec Baldwin says it's not true that he's not cooperating with the investigation. He also says the accusation of him being deliberately evasive is a lie. He said the following on Instagram, quote, "They can't just go through your phone and take your photos or your love letters to your wife or what have you. That is a process that takes time," end quote. And it's quite a reasonable thing that he's saying, because it's true. Some things ought to be off limits. And we have seen in the Chris Watts case that there was certain information that wasn't dealt with in the phone data review. So I don't think it's anything new. You're not going to have the authorities take everything on his phone, hand it over to the tabloids, and then you sort of have a feeding frenzy. It is a very well-trodden legal path that you've got to pay attention to the things that are relevant to the investigation, right? And so he has a point there, but I think the other point is also you can go through the phone and take the photos and the messages and what have you that are related to the events at hand. And bear in mind, when he was on the set for a long time, he wasn't with his wife, he wasn't with his children. And so, there shouldn't really be a privacy aspect to that, because he is on set, and it's to do with the activities on the ground, the activities central to the crime scene, if that makes sense. Again, I'm sure that he's right, but I'm also sure it doesn't take almost 4 months worth of time to hand over the material pertinent to the investigation, because there's another way of doing it as well. You can choose your own material. You can say, you know what, I think this is relevant. I'll send through these emails. I'll send through screen grabs of those text messages. I'll send through this. I'll send through that. And I think another question is, has he done so? Has he initiated that process where he's volunteered that? Or has he said, I'm not giving you any kind of all or nothing approach. I'm not giving you anything until we've sorted out the fine print. So, it doesn't matter how much time passes until we agree what you're getting, you're not getting anything. So we don't know what the answer is to that. Has he provided anything thus far off his phone? What is the answer to that? Well, the police could probably say that. I do think there's a world of difference if he hasn't provided anything for 3 going on 4 months. If he hasn't volunteered anything, if he hasn't contributed anything, that doesn't feel like someone who is cooperating, who's actively cooperating. Whereas someone who is, going through their phone and saying, you know what, this could help you, here it is, volunteering this, volunteering that. And I think we've all been in that situation on our own phones, where you're talking about something or someone or a scenario, and then in order to support your argument, you take a screen grab or you repeat what somebody said to you, right? Does that make sense? In other words, you try and make a particular situation clearer to a third party, something regarding a one-on-one correspondence or situation. I think we've all been in that situation. So let's personalize this even further. Imagine you have evidence on your phone that is either exculpatory or inculpatory. exculpatory means that it's going to be good for your legal status. It's going to clear you from alleged fault or guilt, right? Whereas something that's inculpatory isn't going to do that. It's going to actually make you appear guilty. It's going to make you appear culpable, right? So, so there is either exculpatory evidence on his phone or inculpatory. If the former, if it was you, wouldn't you be in a rush to deliver this content to the authorities and keep finding new things? I found this. It might be useful to you. Oh, here's a message from Helena. Oh, here's a message from that person. Maybe, do you need anything about this or that, right? If the latter, are you going to make it easier or harder to get yourself into trouble? And I think that is perhaps the central theme to what is going on here. It's not really about the privacy of love letters and so on, because I've already made the point. The Baldwins, not only Alec but his wife as well, are quite active on social media talking about their family. So if privacy was such an issue, you'd imagine their social media would be more private, wouldn't you? Even so, privacy is still an issue. I still think no matter what the legal status is, anyone has a right to certain private correspondences that are not relevant to be I wouldn't say off the record, but not the purview of the investigation, also not in the discovery. In this regard, one must also look at the Chris Watts case again, where he was understood that his discussions with the authorities would be private, especially his second one. And what happened? It wasn't. So that is certainly an area of concern. Now, with regard to Baldwin saying he isn't deliberately evasive, I think there seems to be a tacit acknowledgement that he is being evasive. And by that I mean it's logical to say if the authorities want his phone, want what is on his phone and can't get it, and this goes on for days, weeks, and eventually months. Remember, this incident happened in mid-October last year. Then the objective reality is the failure to receive the information is delaying the investigation. So you could say if he's got no intention in delaying, postponing, frustrating, obstructing, if none of that is something he's trying to do, the result nevertheless is that. In other words, from the authorities' perspective, they are being frustrated, they are being obstructed in some way. And you might say Baldwin is not trying to do that, but that is the result. Well, that is nevertheless the reality, no matter how you spin it. He also goes on to say, quote, any suggestion that I'm not complying with requests or orders or demands or search warrants about my phone, he says that's BS, that's a lie. This actually reminds me of a simple question I asked an old friend on Facebook recently. We hadn't really been in touch much and kind of lost contact in a way. And so I came across kind of a lengthy diatribe about vaccines and whatnot. And even glossing through all the details, it was really hard to tell what his position was on the subject. I kind of got a sense of it, but I kind of wanted to be sure. So I just asked him straight out. I said, are you an anti-vaxxer? And he seemed taken aback a bit by the directness of the question. He probably was a bit surprised because I'm not, although he's a friend, we're not friends on Facebook. I think he was quite surprised perhaps to see me there. And he responded cautiously, no, not per se. And I was like, what does that mean? So I asked him another direct question, are you vaccinated? To which he answered, hell no. And I mean, that answered the question, didn't it? There you have it. Whether he admits it or not, someone else might be able to give a clear-cut assessment of his position. And so if you apply this to Alec Baldwin, he may believe he's cooperating, but whatever the details are, the question is whether the authorities have his iPhone or not. That's the bottom line. Do the authorities have his iPhone or not? The incident happened 21st of October 2021. We're now at 8th, 9th January 2022. The authorities have other people's cell phones. They want his cell phone. Do they have it, yes or no? What do you think the answer is? According to the Santa Fe County Sheriff's spokesman, Juan Rios, he said Friday afternoon, just the day before, the sheriff's office does not have physical possession of the phone. To be more explicit, the sheriff's office don't have Alec Baldwin's phone. They don't have it in their hands. They don't have it. And then he went on to say, the phone is in New York with Mr. Baldwin, meaning Alec Baldwin still has his phone. The phone that the authorities want, they don't have. Alec Baldwin has it, right? So that is the bottom line, is they don't have the phone and they need the phone and they want the phone. And so just to emphasize, they want it, they've asked for it, they've been told to get a warrant, they got a warrant, and they still don't have it. So I think the real question, reading between the lines, is how long is it going to take to get it? And I think that length of time is going to be quite interesting. I think it's in a way intertextual to, if you take the John Benet Ramsey case, look how long it took just for them to sit down and talk to the authorities, right? It took 4 months. And what are the conditions surrounding what the authorities may be allowed to look at on the phone? I think that would also be quite interesting to know. You know, is it just, keep my love letters to my wife out of it? And bear in mind also his wife has been on social media a lot as well. She's in the news. She's a public figure. So it's not as though they're very, very private individuals. So is this an issue, really, this privacy issue, or is it a red herring? Is it calculated to some other end, right? I think another thing to consider is if Baldwin persists in refusing to give up his phone, or if the scenario of the phone not being in the possession of the authorities continues or persists for whatever reason, what is the next move going to be from the authorities? Food for thought. So I'm not going to take it further than that. The next episode I'm going to do on Baldwin is to do with that global recap that I've been talking about. I've been meaning to get to it, but every time there's a new news story. Also remember the statement that Baldwin made on Instagram. I'll provide a link to that in the description. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.